So here we are, getting ready to turn off into the town of Old Rolfe. You can see the sign there. On the right here, you can see the freshly harvested cornfields. Back beyond those trees there is the West Branch of the Des Moines River. Lots of trees in this area. And as we turn left or west up into this drive, you can see we're climbing up. Old Rolfe was situated on a very nice knoll. It was the highest knoll in the area. So the townspeople really had a great view up here, and they could catch those nice summertime breezes. Now on our right, we just passed where the site of the old courthouse was. We're going to continue on. You can see the fields there. You can see that rich black dirt for which Iowa is famous for. And if you kind of look in the center left of the screen, you can see the grain elevators. Here in just a moment, we'll stop and you'll be able to see those tall grain elevators out on the horizon. That is where the current town of Rolfe is. It's about 4 miles southwest of this site. So where we're coming here, we're pulling up to the Old Rolfe Cemetery. So we want to get out and explore this just a little bit. Kevin was really itching to get out and film this cemetery. So as we enter through the gate here, we can see an overview of the cemetery. And I believe we'll be seeing the signpost here, or the sign here pretty soon. Turn it around there, Kevin. There we go. And we can see that the Old Rolfe Cemetery was established in 1858. Now, all across the state of Iowa, and especially up in this neck of the woods, you find all kinds of little township cemeteries. And they were established. Some of them or many of them are still open and still used. There are still burials taking place in this cemetery here. As we just kind of glance around here just a little bit, you see all the old stones. Just a few facts about Old Rolfe. Because the town sat on the highest knoll in the area, the first name proposed for the town was Highland City. In 1861, after the town had been platted, it was officially named Milton. In the fall of 1862, the name was changed to Rolfe. In 1882, railroads crossed each other at a point 4 miles southwest of it, and New Rolfe built near the junction. And that's where we saw the elevators earlier, off in the distance. Old Rolfe lost its romantic name and was renamed Parvin. So, with all of these different changes, it just killed the town, and the pioneer town of Pocahontas County was dead. It's a sad fact of life, or of death, to see so many infants. Back in the pioneer days, they sure lost a lot of infants and had to bury a lot of young children. Here's, for example, 1 year and 29 days. Frederick Kramer.
And two newer ones.
I walked this one summer and there's an awful lot of children here. And as you can see, a lot of immigrants born in Scotland. Okay, we are at the site of Old Rolfe, and this is the location of the first courthouse of Pocahontas County. Now this courthouse here served the county until 1876, and the county seat was moved to the town of Pocahontas. That building lasted about 50 years, and the third courthouse, which you saw me in front of, that is the current courthouse. So Old Rolfe settled here. The first pioneers to this area came from like the Fort Dodge area, followed the river up here. They came with oxen, and they settled here. I think when the county was established, there was about 80 settlers. Well, we have traveled about 4 miles west of Old Rolfe, and you see me standing at the spot where the last buffalo, or perhaps more properly, the last bison, was killed in this region of Iowa. In 1904, Robert Flickinger wrote a history of Pocahontas County, and he has an account of this last buffalo hunt or last buffalo chase in his book. And I thought I would read it to you. It's a little bit lengthy, but I think you'll enjoy listening to it. If nothing else, I just love the manner in which they used to write. So it begins. On August 20th, 1863, the last buffalo seen in Pocahontas County was chased and killed by W.H. Hyatt, assisted by Orlando Slauson, Robinson Gordon, and Abiel Stickney. Mrs. Charles Jarvis, whose husband that year was running Mr. Hyatt's sawmill, and with her living in his home, and now a resident of Bradgate, was the first to see this one in the distance. On going to milk the cows in the barn in the morning, before breakfast, she found them missing, and reviewing the country around to see where they were, her eye fell upon a strange-looking object capering on a little knoll on Section 22, about 1.5 miles northwest of the courthouse. That awakened her surprise. Mr. Hyatt was in the courthouse at this time, and when he returned home for breakfast and his attention was called to it, he recognized it as a buffalo. Mr. Hyatt hurriedly partook of some breakfast and then began to prepare for the chase by summoning to his assistance the men named above. 3 things were needed: fleet horses, good weapons, and ammunition. In the courthouse there were some old Springfield Army muskets, but there was no ammunition suited for them. The only ammunition available was in the form of some little cartridges for a small number 32 revolver owned by Mr. Hyatt. As it was deemed advisable that each man should have a loaded weapon, the muskets were loaded as best they could with that kind of ammunition, and while Mr. Hyatt took his revolver, each of his assistants was armed with a musket. Unfortunately, suitable horses were as scarce as the weapons, there being but one horse available that could run as fast as a buffalo. Happily, this one belonged to Mr. Hyatt, and he mounted it while the others took such as they could get. Thus equipped, they pushed the buffalo's pursuit, with spurring put to their horses, and, till all 4 were out of wind and their game captured, never looked behind. As the buffalo was capering with the manifest enjoyment, they did not plan to flank or surround him, but started off in a high glee, expecting to give him a general broadside that would lay him low. But when they had proceeded in a short distance, the buffalo perceived them and avoided the broadside by quitting his capering, turning tail, and speeding away in a northwesterly direction. The chase was now begun with all possible earnestness, each hunter urging his steed to make his utmost speed. Mr. Hyatt, who was riding a horse bred in Kentucky and one of the fleetest ever brought to this county, was soon a considerable distance ahead of the others, and it became apparent that his steed was the only one in the lot that could run as fast as the buffalo. After a chase of 2 miles or more, he overtook the buffalo, and galloping by his side at the distance of 1 rod, he fired in quick succession as many shots as he could from his little revolver, aiming at the heart of the brute. When the 3rd wound had inflicted the buffalo, it became enraged, and charging furiously at the steed of his pursuer, compelled Mr. Hyatt to beat a hasty retreat. This retreat took the form of a semicircle, and the buffalo followed Mr. Hyatt until his companions arrived, when each of them fired a shot as he had opportunity. About the only effect of these shots was to lead the buffalo to attack each man as he inflicted a wound. One of the men, in his effort to avoid the charge of the buffalo, dropped and lost his musket in the grass. Mr. Hyatt, having reloaded, and seeing the danger of his companions, who were scarcely able to keep out of his way when pursued by the enraged brute, for the purpose of attracting him from them again, rode close by and fired another series of shot at his heart. This was the crisis or turning point in the battle with the buffalo. The buffalo did not now attack Mr. Hyatt as before, but sought shelter from his pursuers and relief from the oppressive heat by running into a westerly direction into the center of a large slough. All men now realized the danger connected with their undertaking. The retreat of the buffalo was a source of great relief, affording them time to reload their weapons and give their exhausting steeds a few moments of greatly needed rest. The battle after this point took the form of a series of skirmishes, as many as 4 or 5 different sloughs, each one being some distance further westward. In these skirmishes, in the sloughs, the men would go as near to the buffalo as they could safely with their horses, and firing at him, he would charge upon them, compel them to retreat, and then seek refuge in another one further through the west. At last the buffalo became too weak and weary to charge upon his pursuers, and finding they could not kill him outright, they drove him back about a half mile, when, exhausted and dying, he lay down on that part of the southwest section of Section 24, Powhatan Township, that is now owned by Dora Strong. When he lay down, Orlando Slauson ventured close to him and fired 2 more shots into him, after which he soon expired. After 3 hours had been occupied in the chase, and the place where he fell was about 5 miles northwest of Old Rolfe. Mr. Hyatt and 2 of the men now returned home for a team and left Oscar Slauson to guard their game and enable them to find the place where he was lying. The buffalo was a very large one, and his weight was estimated at 1,400 pounds. His horns were not very long, but they were very strong, and being fully 3 inches in diameter at the base, and each had 17 rings. This was the last buffalo known to have grazed on the prairies of this county. The largest of American game, like the Indian to whom he was principal means of subsistence, is fast passing away at the approach of civilized man.
Did you stop it? I get this book first.
Malcolm, 375.
Okay, you look in that book. I'm going to look in this book. See what I got to put up with here? This Kevin, we're out here trying to do videos, and Kevin's out here arguing. I got research. I got research to do.
No Malcolm
Yeah. Okay, Kevin, get your nose out of the book and look around here. We just, left the buffalo area in the cemetery. Another half mile down here, we're going to see Pikertown Corner.
What Pikertown Corner? There's no Pikertown Corner.
Yes,
where in the world is that at?
Oh, be quiet. Come on now, just play along, will ya? Yes, we're gonna stop here at Pikertown.
Where is this?
Got a sign right over here. This is County Road C29, the little curve here. Back over that way. And this is known as Pikertown Corner. And there was a schoolhouse here called the Pikertown Schoolhouse.
How many times has anyone gone by here and never noticed this little sign?
I've known this was here since I was a little kid. Where have you been? Okay, come on, we gotta get into Rolfe. You keep making me stop, Kevin.